Morning. See everybody. As I was putting together my notes for the talk today, I was trying to figure out how to communicate what it's about. And I was also trying to come up with maybe a title that I was going to associate with the talk, hoping that might give you a little bit of idea what I'll be talking about. So the title I was thinking was Wonderfully Unaccountable. And then I thought to myself, that doesn't really clue you in too much about what I'll be talking about. But essentially, I was kind of looking at what it means to practice, which is pretty broad too. That doesn't really hone in on it too much, but maybe the talk has a little bit of a flavor of can we do this? Or sort of our aptitude, because I think that's a question that can come up for many of us when we are taking up the practice and considering kind of what it takes, or what it might require. So that's sort of what it's about. And in kind of thinking about that, I was thinking about all the different ways that we start practice. And it can be a whole variety of different things. I'm sure everybody here in the group has got a different story for how they heard about practice, heard about these teachings. I know for me, I wasn't too familiar with Eastern teaching. So when I was introduced to Eastern wisdom, it was a bit of a shocker for me to think that there could be a religion that is completely focused on experience itself. So that was quite different for me as opposed to what my upbringing was and some other religious teachings that I was familiar with. But as I say, it could be a lot of different reasons. In some ways, we can recognize the difficulties in our life that may be a reason why we come to practice. We might be curious about bigger questions. We might just have like a proclivity towards curiosity about spirituality, for a lack of a better term. Sometimes we'll end up just reading books and studying. And some of us will actually do just sitting. It could be one or the other, or a combination of those things. But either way, I think something can often resonate with us. Like we feel that there's something to this, either in how we see it presented by a teacher or something that we're reading. So we have a desire to take it up. We're kind of curious about what it is. As I said, a part of that too is can be this question of, can I do this practice? And I thought I'd mention just on the outset here a couple of very helpful things in addressing that question that can come up. Can we do this? Very helpful aspects of setting up a regular practice, having certain days of the week where we dedicate to sitting, and then sitting with others too. Those two things can be quite helpful in carrying out practice. And at some point in studying Zen, at least, I think we're familiar with running into the teaching of, encountering this teaching that tells us that practice is actually different than the reasons that we may have thought we're doing it. So we get a teaching that kind of is a little bit different than what we're expecting, in the fact that the teachings are telling us that we do practice just to rededicate ourselves to staying here with what's happening right now. So as you can kind of imagine, that has a different flavor a little bit in terms of just rededicating ourselves to being here. Sounds, it has a different feel a little bit than, maybe a certain set of reasons why we do practice. So it's just this very streamlined and simple way of understanding what practice is actually just to dedicate ourselves to life, which also too, I think is maybe something that is kind of unfamiliar. We're not used to hearing this kind of simplicity, I think. So it's just to fully live life. That's what practice is. Pretty straightforward. But of course, I think our attention, just the nature of who we are, and what society kind of emphasizes, that we end up being drawn back to the notions of maybe benefit of practice. And I thought I'd mention that this is perfectly fine to think of, or to have these notions come up, basically. But the teachings are unique in what they're helping us with, and that is it's a type of teaching that helps us recognize where we're placing our energy. So it's not so much a matter of benefits or not benefits, but actually the teachings help us see where we're putting our emphasis or putting our life energy. And oftentimes we just simply don't notice that we're kind of putting this emphasis on different things. In this case, the reasons why we think we're practicing. And the teachings say that if we actually put energy in anything other than being here in this moment, we're actually simply overlooking what's happening. So again, not so much that benefits or not benefits, but the teachings are saying that if we're doing anything other than really dedicating ourselves to what's true and real, this here now experience, these teachings are just helping us see that there's simply overlooking that's happening. So it's not even about trying to stop thinking or to achieve anything at all. It's just to notice a frame of mind that may be happening, an orientation. So that's what the teachings are helping us with. So I think one of, you might say, there's sort of pitfalls in terms of understanding practice in a certain way where we may not notice that we have kind of an achieving type of orientation. With the simplicity, I think we can move to a different perspective here. And in doing so, I think there's some kind of hidden aspect about sensing freedom in actually not needing to, feel the gravitation of a certain outcome, or that we're trying to change or transform anything. There's actually energy, a lot of energy that would be needed to actually do those things. So in recognizing this simplicity, it's also recognizing of we can actually set that extraneous energy down. It's extra work that we don't actually have to be doing. And really just shooting for 100% attentiveness to our life is all that needs to be done. So the teachings are, I think, quite helpful in recognizing that we actually might be pursuing something. And as I was saying before, we don't often even recognize that we're doing that. So this is just about noticing that. And on the other side of the equation, practices that's recommended is just simple moment by moment awareness. And what it boils down to is actually not missing our life as it's happening. So it's like, it couldn't get any more simple than that. This life that we're living, we can actually, uh, you know, instead of it kind of sort of passing by us as we're thinking about one thing or another, we can actually fully appreciate our life. So getting back to that question, um, do we have the ability to do this practice is maybe something that we ask. And I would say absolutely, yes. Yes, we can. And one of the main reasons for that is this simplicity that I'm speaking of. It actually doesn't have the complexity that perhaps we inadvertently put on there. So it's actually quite simple. We can do this because it is so straightforward. It doesn't take any particular type of talents or personality types. I think there's many different ways of seeing different personality types that seem quite different, and aspects of those personality types that you would think maybe one is better for practice than the other, but you can actually see that there's certain qualities that pretty much everybody has that really align with um, being advantageous to practice. So it's, I think there's no one particular type of person or situation that's has any type of advantage in this. And also helpful to realize what we have going for us in respect to the simplicity is that we're already completely, we've got our life right here. You know, that's all that we need for practice. So we have everything that we need. We just need to be present and aware and alert to what's going on. So again, very straightforward. So I'm thinking about this question that can come up, whether we can do the practice or not. A something sort of turned around a little bit for me, and I think feeling that maybe this isn't quite the right question in a sense. So maybe it's a little bit less of can I do this, and more about just refamiliarizing ourselves, or actually just accepting the truth of reality, or just the truth of our life. So there's a little bit of different inflection there. You know, can we do this is a little bit different than just simply trusting the truth of reality. So a little bit different feeling there, and I'll go into this just a little bit. And actually, this question kind of came up for me when I read a phrase from Suzuki Roshi's book, his commentary on the Sandokai. The title of the book is "Branching Streams Flow in the Darkness." And Suzuki says, studying Buddhism is not like studying other things. It may take some time before you can accept the teaching completely. So here, I sort of read it the first time and I went right over the top of it. And then I thought, wait a minute, he said, you know, he didn't say, can you understand the teaching? He said, it takes a while to accept the teaching, which is different. So for me, that opened up a whole different way of thinking about what practice is in terms of kind of how I'm presenting it here. So accepting practice in terms of fully living is actually fully living just for fully living life, or practicing just for the sake of practicing, which we're kind of, I mean, we've maybe heard about similar types of things, but I think that's kind of a foreign thing a little bit to us, just to do something for the sake of doing that thing. And I think it rings true with the message of simplicity too. But for me, when I read this Suzuki Roshi quote, it has some a relation to just doing practice for the sake of doing practice. I was thinking about also he uses the term accepting the teachings. Let's see here. It says it may take time before you can accept the teachings completely, which made me think of how we normally accept things, which is based on, I mean, normally we'll get a set of different like facts or data, whatever it might be about something. And then what we end up doing is just coming up with an idea. And often, it's just kind of to develop a certain worldview or an idea about something. So based on this information that we get, we sort of make an assessment whether we think it's something that we want to accept or not. And this is really how we most often are making our determination. So, is this convincing? So we get a sense or a feel of whether it's convincing or not. I think of, for some reason, the image of Sally, the younger sister of Charlie Brown, sitting with Linus in the pumpkin patch. You remember this? This is the what was there, like a holiday special, Halloween holiday special of Peanuts. And Linus is there telling Sally about the great pumpkin and sort of trying to convince her. And she's skeptical but hopeful. And I think she's willing to hang out with Linus. That seems to be a major part of what she wants to be doing there. But they continue to wait and wait. And you can see Sally becoming more and more frustrated as the night drags on. And then finally, she just explodes. She's pretty animated there, that she's pretty angry that she misses out on the tricks or treats in the holiday party, the Halloween party. So here you got Sally weighing the pros and cons of what's going on. She's like, okay, I'll accept this for a while. And then it's just like, I'm not getting anything from this. So she changes her mind pretty dramatically. And I'm not proposing that we believe in the great pumpkin here or anything. It's just an example of this weighing of sort of, I don't know what you would say, information or how we are interpreting what's going on. But actually, the Buddha Dharma shows us that I think it recognizes that ideas are very helpful in our life, to make the different assessments that we have to do. But ultimately, practice is not about accepting or not accepting any type of idea or worldview. It's not about needing to have a pursuit or not needing to have a pursuit, or having a goal or not needing to have a goal. It's not focused on that at all. Again, the simplicity of practice is just to redirect our attention to our life. So no matter how we are approaching practice or taking up practice, it's actually good. It may not be sort of in line kind of with what some teachings are saying, we'll be doing practice for all kinds of different reasons, but it actually is, no matter what we're doing, is completely fine. And it's helpful, I think, to just listen to what the teachings are indicating to us. They may help us kind of see something in a different way. But actually, it is completely fine for us to do practice how we're doing it. And no matter what that might be, it may be prompting questions for us, for regardless of how we're doing practice, questions might come up as a result of how we're doing practice. And having questions is very helpful. And just really being sincere about watching our practice and paying attention to what we're doing, not judging ourselves and not saying anything is good or bad, but in really paying attention to our practice, no matter how we're doing it, then we can really see what works or doesn't work. And we can, again, listen to how the teachings are equating this to us. Those could be very helpful in understanding what works and what doesn't work. Actually, the Buddha, in his in the story that we hear of the Buddha setting out to understand the source of suffering, we can see there the same exact thing where the Buddha is clarifying what works and what doesn't work. And what he ends up finding is, as we see in the Four Noble Truths, that craving, this mental pursuit that we don't necessarily notice, right with that, we have this kind of out of kilter quality that comes with that. Not that it's bad, but what the Buddha understood, or he basically clarified what that was. So when there is craving or grasping, just necessarily there'll be unsettled quality right there. And again, not that it's bad or anything, but the Buddha was saying that really all we need to do is just notice that, what that is. So what seems true to us, this weighing information, deciding what might be helpful, what we decide we want to trust, is something that we're obviously quite familiar with. It's kind of just the standard mode of operation, I think. But it's not actually the only way to understand truth. With the Buddha Dharma, here we can see that this truth of reality, which is beyond words and concepts, it actually may not really be too convincing to us, because there's no way of comparing or making the assessment that we're usually used to doing in order to like make the decision whether we accept something or not. There's no way to make an assessment about reality. There's no comparison or anything along those lines. So it may be a little bit difficult. And I think that goes back to kind of what Suzuki is saying. It may take us a while to accept this truth because our usual methodology just doesn't work for it. But there's parts of the practice, just recognizing the vivid quality of life, recognizing the truth of the immediacy of our life and the depth of our life is, I think, something that can really provide a little bit of, trying to think of the right word, sort of opens our eyes a little bit to the importance of our life and what the importance of our practice can be in actually appreciating our life. And this truth of reality, I mean, in a lot of ways, the teachings are talking about ordinary Zen, ordinary life, which can seem a little bit mundane too. So perhaps it can be a little bit difficult to remain focused on just this, just what's happening, because it just doesn't seem that enticing. And I think the reason why it's not so vivid a lot of the times is just because we have different expectations, and it sort of dulls what our life is because we're choosing that we may want something different. So the instruction is very simple. I think of Norm Randolph's, if I can kind of paraphrase how what he instructs. He says to simply resume the practice of awareness here and now, just for the sake of practicing the awareness, simply resuming the practices of awareness of here and now. So just the sake of practice, practicing just for the sake of practice, which is not necessarily so easy, but we can do it. So this fundamental truth, the truth of reality, it may not seem so true to us, but it's the truth that we work with in practice. It's not something we can verify intellectually, but this is a verifiable truth in the sense that it's direct. If we are here, it's undeniable. So the practice is about returning to what is self-evident, even though we can't grasp it. And I think in some ways, we can trust it because it can't be grasped. Anything else we can grasp is going to be a little bit shaky. But this completely fluid reality, this experience, we can't hold it down. We can't capture it. It's not a possession. And because of that, I think we can sense there's something sincere about what this is. As I said, Suzuki used the word accept the teachings or accept the truth. And for me, I'm thinking, what are we accepting here exactly? And I think that actually we're not accepting anything specific. This is, again, just about living life 100%. So it's not about accepting anything, certainly not about accepting a belief or some sort of dictum or doctrine. It's just a pointing back to reality as it is. So that kind of question, the topic of the talk here, can we do it or not? I don't know if it's really so much a matter of capability or ability. Really, all this has to do with is coming back. And if you sit in meditation, you'll notice that that's basically what it is. You're just coming back. The wandering mind happens, and then we come back. Actually, I say come back, but it's simpler than that. Right when we notice, we're back already. And things like regular sitting, as I mentioned at the beginning, is quite helpful. Session, sitting, daily sittings, it's all very helpful in understanding what these teachings are pointing at. So kind of when I was thinking about this, it's a shift from ability, whether we can do this or not, and actually just recognizing that all this has to do with is just remembering, which is pretty straightforward. Just remember to come back. That's all that that's all that's needed. And just as just a brief memory I had of traveling in Europe, which this memory kind of jumped out at me as I was thinking about this. We were in a small town in Germany, my dad and I. This is back several decades, and I remember it was just a very pleasant day in this garden, this park. And I think I was just sitting down and I was watching an elderly woman walking down the path, and there's flowers and different vegetation in the park here, quite beautiful. And she was walking very slowly, and I can imagine she looked like she was listening to the birds and feeling the breeze. I remember she slowly bent down to a flower and just cupped the flower with her hand. And for me, it was just a striking experience to see somebody who was just fully invested, or fully invested is not the right word, just fully engaged. The appreciation was just communicated in her movements. It was very touching to see. And I think we can get a sense of what that is, this wonderfully unaccountable experience that's happening. It's just here now. Again, the practice is very simple. It's just doing one thing at a time, really appreciating, or opening up this ability to really appreciate what our life is, moment by moment. So hopefully, maybe that title makes a little more sense now that I went through a few things there, but wanted to open it up for questions if anybody has anything that was that they were thinking about, or comments or questions.
Well, here now, if that comes out.
Thank you. I agree. It's so simple and it's so clear, yet we kind of maybe don't pay attention to it too much. But what else is there? Yeah. I think that's part of what Suzuki's talking about, accepting this truth, is just being able to slow down a little bit and kind of letting the practice, or things can just quiet down on their own if we take up this simple practice. Things can just quiet on their own, of their own accord, and then we can, this here now, the truth of here now can be self-evident. There's nothing else that is experienced. That's all that there is. Anything else? Yeah, Matt.
I really like that story of the journeyman woman.
Mm.
I imagine her cupping that flower. I wonder if she had an understanding of impermanence, right? Of realizing, the flower is beautiful because it's not going to be around long. That's true for everything in our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you were talking, I was thinking about impermanence, right? Like that's a big motivation for me and probably many others to practice, to realize life is fleeting, right? It's a great matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that act of cupping a flower, it made me think about the truth of impermanence. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
I agree. Impermanence, and also I was thinking of that unaccountable aspect of, or it's kind of like you see life and you see the fading of life. And as a part of that, we're just asking so many questions, why is something worth it or not? But when you ask, why is life worth it? It just does not make any sense at all. It's like this. So I think the unaccountable side of recognizing the inconceivability of what is happening gets us back to really appreciation and noticing the important things, that things are coming and going, the fleeting nature of the flower. And it seems like age helps us understand those things. And I think I felt a wisdom of her age just in the movement that I was seeing there. It was very beautiful. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.